The Wise Guys are back for another week. Dave McCann, Blaine Fowler. Hi, everybody. There's so much going on in the wake of like the worst college football championship in the history of mankind.
Like I suffered through and watched it to the end, and I'm like the biggest football guy there is, and I almost lost my complete desire for the fourth quarter. I almost bailed. That's how bad it was. It was just not entertaining football. Fortunately,
we have Jimmer Fredette tonight. We'll take your questions, and he'll answer them. We'll have some fun with him. That's coming up in just a couple of minutes. But we've got such a big show. We want to dive right into things for this week, including BYU's quarterback room getting a lot deeper today.
Yep, a signee that we're going to tell you about, the number one rated junior college quarterback in the country. We'll get a little bit more into that, but that's going to be fun. And it gives BYU the kind of depth they needed for next season. So how about it's a Super Sunday for a pair of former Cougars in the NFL, what it means to BYU newcomer Aiden Robbins. So, yeah, we want to talk about a couple of BYU running backs that had a phenomenal day.
So cool, so cool. Men's hoops, school's back in session, and so is the big game. BYU hosts number 8 Gonzaga for the final time at the Marriott Center. Thursday night, it is sold out.
And who knows? Maybe they'll play.
Yeah. I hope they do play, but right now it's the final time.
And everybody's saying the right things. Mark Pope and Mark Few are saying, oh, yeah.
I think they might play, but maybe at Vivint Arena.
Yeah, well, there's all that talk that maybe Gonzaga joins the Big 12 as a basketball only member. So we'll see what happens with that. And you already mentioned Jimmer Fredette joining us. We'll talk about Gonzaga. We'll talk about the Olympics.
How about the 3-on-3? He may go to the Olympics playing 3-on-3.
Which is nuts. I think
Jimmer
awesome.
And the gold medal. That sounds right, doesn't it?
It sounds really right to me. And we're going to talk about the best of Jimmermania. The most fun. I'm so looking forward to reminiscing with Jimmer. Very, very cool.
It is going to be good. How about the gusto of Lauren Gustin tying a Marriott Center record as the women's hoops team regains their footing in the West Coast Conference? We'll talk about her dynamic player.
Yeah, that team's starting to come together. And I mentioned this last week. I called a women's game a couple of weeks ago, and you've called one or two this year as well, right? And there are times when you go, is Lauren going to get every single solitary rebound in this game? Is anybody else going to get a rebound? That's how dominating she is on the glass. Really, really fun. And how about Ready, Set, Spike? We previewed it last week. The men's volleyball team soars into the new season.
Yeah, and they were 13th in the new poll.
Yeah,
that was flying.
That was fun. And nobody some new faces, young, not a lot of expectations. But Sean Olmstead told us he tempered it. Like, yeah, we think we could be pretty good. We're talented, but we're young. And they started off on a nice.
You get the brooms out on opening weekend.
Yeah, that's
nice.
Pretty nice against a couple of good teams. So
there's a buzz. There's a buzz on our live stream tonight. Everyone knows Jimmer's coming, and you can feel it. We're so happy to have all of you listening from wherever. We remind you, follow us on YouTube. You can ask your questions that way, and we'll put the link into the chat. Hit the subscribe button. That's free. Click on the bell. We'll get you notifications whenever we post something new or go live. The more subscribers we get, the longer our wives are going to let us do this show.
That's right. And we don't care how you watch it.
Right.
So you can watch it just at ysguys.com. You can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on Twitch. We just need you to subscribe to all of them.
Yeah.
Just go subscribe to all of them, and because it doesn't cost anything.
We did our research. The price is free.
The price is free, and the more you subscribe to, the better it is for Diane and Brenda to let us continue to do the show. And
if you go to ysguys.com and you subscribe to get our weekly email, you'll get highlights of the show each week just sent right to your email, and the highlights. And you can just sit there and take it all in. But and with a big show tonight, Danny Ainge is going to be with us next week. So we are rolling into 2023 in grand style.
Yeah, BYU Sports Ed, he gets it. Like, free. Yeah, baby. Like, that's what he's like us. If it's free, it's for me. I'll take 3, which is a Viceka Hema statement. So. And
here's another thought. Jimmer, thanks for one of the most exciting times for BYU basketball since Danny Ainge. So the buzz is churning, and Jimmer will be with us live from Colorado here in just a couple of minutes. Let's get into some headlines that are big time. BYU lands the top junior college quarterback in the country, 6'2", 200-pound Jake Retzloff comes to the Cougars from Riverside City College. Rivals.com lists him as a dual threat, means he can run and throw.
Yeah, and he's very athletic. I mean, when I think of dual threat, it's not necessarily Taysom Hill. It's Zach Wilson, right? It's Jaron Hall.
Right.
And that's exactly what BYU wants to fit into this offense that Aaron Roderick has put together. Jeff Hansen of 24/7 Sports says, if you read kind of the background on him, that Jake didn't play much as a sophomore or a junior.
So he wasn't this big high school star.
And then COVID completely wiped out his senior year. Remember, he's from California. Yeah. And so there really wasn't anything to go on other than some camps that he'd been to. Looked like he was a big-time talent. But because of what happened in high school, he wasn't on a lot of people's radar, so he had to go the junior college route. And all he did was just blow up in JC. So last season, he throws for 4,596 yards, 44 touchdowns, and just 13 interceptions.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
I was telling you a little bit ago, I wanted to compare that. So for reference, folks at home, when I think of the two greatest quarterback seasons in BYU history, I think of Robbie Bosco because of the national championship. But statistically, I think Jim McMahon in 1980, which was nutso, and then nutso on steroids was Ty Detmer in 1990. So what does Jim do in 1980? 4,571 yards and 47 touchdowns.
Pretty good.
So Ratzliff, 4,031 yards and 35 touchdowns. That's pretty good. Ty Detmer in 90. This is ridiculous. 5,188 yards that year and 41 touchdowns. So what I'm saying is,
this guy can play.
I realize that it's a different level of competition.
Yeah.
But he's coming from a program that throws it all over the place, just like BYU used to, and his numbers are very impressive. And I really like that. 44 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. His quarterback rating is outstanding. You can see he's a good decision maker. But most importantly, when I watch him, I watch the highlights, pocket presence, and can make every throw, which is, I look at the quarterbacks in BYU's programs, and it's a pretty full room right now, Dave.
Yeah.
So, and I look at every one of those guys, and they can all make all the throws. I'm confident they can all be good decision makers, and they can all thrive. And so you got Keaton Slovis. This
and
season.
the grand theme is, right, this kid comes in, plays in 4 games next year, redshirt, studies the offense, and he's got 2 years, and that fills the gap between Finnegan, who's finishing up his redshirt freshman year, the Ryder kid from Springville, Ryder Burton, who's coming in as a true freshman. That fills the gap.
Yeah, they needed something in between. You know what? You always need. You got to recruit right over the top of everybody because you have to have competition in the quarterback room, and there's also injuries, and there's lots of things that can happen in the process of developing a quarterback. You have to have depth, and you have to have talent to push one another, and that's what they're going to have. So you're going to have Keaton Slovis, who'll take the reins as a grad transfer this year, who I think, and I mentioned last week, is going to be phenomenal in this offense. And then you've got Radliff. Am I saying it right? Ratzliff. Who
Ratzliff, right? Ratzliff. Yeah, we'll all get used to it.
Who is going to be able to maybe pick it up right after that. And then you got Cade Finnegan and you got Ryder Burton, who it sets up now where you've got each gap filled. And that's exciting stuff.
Hey, LJP's on YouTube with us watching from Southern California, 6 miles from Riverside City College, right in the area of where we're talking. Thanks for joining the Wise Guys. It's looking at Beaumont, Texas, chiming in, and we encourage you to let us know where you're listening, where you're watching, and we're bracing for Jimmer here in just a couple of minutes. Tyler Algier, speaking of a phenomenal student athlete that is making waves in the profession, the first Cougar running back to reach 1,000 rushing yards in a season. He did it on Sunday. Not only led the Falcons in rushing, but also set the new single-season rookie rushing record for Atlanta with 1,035 yards. Debut, fantastic, in Atlanta's 7-10 season. Nice job, Tyler Algier. I texted him after the game and said, hey, congrats, we're proud of you. And from the locker room, he texts back and he goes, thanks, man. He is still locked in on this community because it meant so much to him.
Yeah, he was such a great teammate. One of the things we talked about when he went to the NFL was, hey, first of all, we think he can play as a running back. But secondly, he's going to be so good for that team. He's going to be such a good guy in that locker room, and he'll do anything he needs to do. Remember, he played linebacker at BYU for a while and played on special teams. And we knew that he could at least make the team on special teams. None of us had any idea that he would be the top rookie running back in the National Football League. And
just imagine if he stayed and ran the ball at BYU this last season, and then he'd have another season of eligibility next year.
So his 1,035 yards was 15th in the NFL. So remember what we're comparing to. A bunch of veterans, and these are the best players in the world, period. He averaged 4.9 yards per carry throughout the season on a team that's decent but not great.
Not great.
Right? That's 11th best in the NFL. So what a season for Tyler Algier. Such an impressive start. And they love him in Atlanta because of who he is.
Yeah, what's not to
Because
love?
of who he is, right? Not just because he's producing on the field.
And then hours later, Jamal Williams becomes the second BYU running back to surpass 1,000 yards in a season in the NFL. And he, too, led the Lions' ground attack with 1,066 yards. And then he did a couple more things.
Yeah. He scored 2 touchdowns in that game, which breaks Barry Sanders, of all people, breaks Barry Sanders' franchise record with 17 regular season rushing touchdowns.
Is that the equivalent of Jimmer breaking Danny Ainge's all-time scoring record?
It's bigger than that.
Is it? It could be bigger than that. And that's big.
Barry Sanders, and mind you, Barry stepped out when he was still on top of his game. But one of the greatest running backs in the history of the game. To break that record, how special is that? And I saw a video where Barry, who's just the most classy guy you've ever seen, where he sent a video directly to Jamal congratulating him, saying he was really proud of him and about the Lion spirit.
And then in the post-game interview, Jamal breaks down, crying on NBC, talking about how he dedicated the game to his great-grandfather, who just passed away.
Yeah.
And then seconds later, he was getting after the media for picking the Packers. We saw all kinds of Jamal in about 45 seconds. It's all genuine.
Even the Packers love Jamal from the time that he spent there. So I'm thinking there was a lot of people in that stadium on that away game that were rooting for Jamal to do something special.
So good.
He averaged 4.1 yards a carry, which is great in the National Football League. But his 17 touchdowns led the league for all positions. So he had more touchdowns than anybody in the National Football League. We're saying this about BYU running backs.
And each time he seemed to have some different kind of touchdown dance in the end zone.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of choreography.
Did you see his introduction? I still don't even know what he said.
I don't either, but
something about something like I don't know. I don't know what he was talking about.
It was totally next level, that's for sure.
He is. How special is that for BYU to have 2 running backs that have played here in recent years, both 1,000-yard rushers in the National Football League? That says something about this offense, about the way the offensive line play is.
And how about this? Here's a list of college programs with 2 or more 1,000-yard rushers in the NFL this season. Alabama with 3, Penn State with 2, and BYU with 2. That's it.
That's a short list. And that's pretty good company, right?
Absolutely.
So that is amazing. And, man, it speaks volumes. And do you know what? That's part of the reason that Aiden Robbins transferred from UNLV and came to BYU in this offseason got in the transfer portal. At UNLV, he rushed for over 1,000 yards last season.
That's a running theme with all the guys.
And he comes to BYU with 2 years of eligibility remaining. 6'3", 230 pounds. He said that the success of Algier and Williams is proof to him that he can get to the NFL as well, right here at BYU. And that's part of the reason that he came. He loved the culture, but he loves the offense and he loves the tradition. So Aiden Robbins was a top 50 running back coming out of high school in the Louisville area in Kentucky. He signed with Louisville out of high school and spent 3 years there. He graduated early, transferred to UNLV, was phenomenal this last year. Really very underutilized as a young player at Louisville. Really never got an opportunity to showcase. But he got an opportunity to showcase at UNLV last year, and I liked what I saw. Very physical, good speed, but big, pounding physical back. And BYU's going to be really good up front this next year on the offensive line. They just picked up another transfer from Missouri State.
Yeah, I saw that.
And they're going to be very good up there again. And I think that if he plays the way he played last year in the Big 12 this year, he's got a chance to go on to the National Football League just like his predecessors at BYU.
I wrote an article about him. You can read it at Deseret.com. The A-Train. The A-Train has rolled into town. Offensive line this week ranked number 1 in pass blocking for the last season by Pro Football Focus. We talked about it all season long. Run game, that struggled, especially in some key spots, but the pass protection was always there all season long.
And I talked to Aaron Roderick about the run game, and he said he learned some things about himself throughout the season, and they played better down the stretch as they got healthy. But he said when he went and looked, there were some of the same holes when they looked, seemed like they were struggling offensively to run the football as there were the year before, but Tyler Algier wasn't playing running back.
Yeah.
And so let's see if Aiden Robbins and maybe a healthy Miles Davis and a healthy running back room can make a difference, and they can get back to what they were the year before when Tyler Algier was so good. In fact, the 2 years before, how many times did we see BYU with a lead at the end of a game, and they just lined up, and I'm talking about good teams like Utah and Arizona State, and just said, you know what? We're just going to pummel you right to the end of the game. We will run the ball 9 straight times now, and you are not getting the ball back, and we'll close the game out. Multiple times.
It was fun to watch because a lot of times that happens to us.
Multiple times they did it. So,
hey, the Big 12 football schedule. We're expecting early February. That's now closing in on a few weeks. The ACC announcing today they will release their fall schedule on Monday, January 30th. So maybe that day or the following day, February 1st, we'll see who BYU is going to play in their first season in the Big 12. Lots to talk about, but it is our pleasure to introduce our first guest tonight, the only Cougar to be so big that he created his own word in the English language. He electrified Cougar Nation since 2007. His basketball journey took him to the Sweet 16, the NBA Draft Lottery, and all around the world. He's much more than a guy who can make baskets, but making baskets made him a guy that everybody's heard of. It's our pleasure to welcome the great Jimmer Fredette into the Wise Guys tonight. Hey, Jimmer, thanks for joining us.
What is up, guys? I am happy to be here. Excited about it. Love the show. You guys are the best, so I'm excited to be here with you guys.
Hey, when you see Algier and Jamal do what they did in the NFL as a BYU athlete who also succeeded at the next level, what do you think about when you see those guys do what they've done?
Man, it's so great to see. I mean, I was calling for the Atlanta to give the ball to Tyler from the beginning of the year. I was like, listen, I swear, if you would have done that from the beginning of the year, you guys would be in the playoffs right now. I'm like, the guy can run the football. He knows what he's doing. He's smart, but he's super strong, athletic. He's fast. And Jamal has just been a touchdown machine this year. It's been fun to watch both of them. I wish I had Jamal in fantasy, but he's been doing some great stuff. It's fun to see these, all the Cougars in the NFL that are doing so well. We got a bunch of them right now that are really playing good football, and it's fun to watch.
And Jimmer, you follow it pretty close, especially the BYU guys. You know, we got to catch up, you and I and Whitney, when you were here for a game this fall. I know Whitney had like a cheer reunion, Cougar reunion, and all that because my wife and daughter were involved in that. But you have followed BYU football, whether it be from a distance from wherever you are or up close when you're around, for a long time, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I grew up playing football. I played football all the way through high school. My second favorite sport. I loved it. Loved Friday nights playing in high school, and was recruited to play some football, but ultimately wasn't going to. I didn't like football practice. I was like, I'm not doing that. I want basketball practice. That's much easier for me. But I love it. It's probably my favorite sport to watch, to be honest with you. So I'm locked in on Saturdays watching football, especially our Cougars. And my father-in-law and his side of the family, they're huge Cougar fans. So I couldn't not watch it. That's for sure. But I enjoy it. I love it, and keep tabs on the team.
When you were here, were you ever tempted to go make a cameo over at Lavelle Edwards Stadium?
Oh my goodness, yes, I absolutely was. Like I just wanted to go into practice and run routes, right? And like just play against the guys, maybe some 7-on-7, have some fun, enjoy doing that. I ended up, playing a little bit more rugby actually than football while I was there, because the rugby guys would work out while we were working out, and I'd be like, all right, let's go play some rugby afterwards. So that was super fun too. But yeah, I would have loved to suit up for the Cougs in Lavelle Edwards Stadium. That would have been amazing.
Hey, if you want to make it, I know a few people. I don't know if you knew this or not, but I could.
You know some guys.
If don't you think we could get Jimmer in the alumni football game?
Yeah,
you could be the quarter. You could do whatever you want.
That would be so awesome.
I'm down for that. I'd love to play in that. I don't know. Do I have a year of eligibility left? Can I take a grad graduate year or something to be able to come back and play. I don't know.
If you're in graduate school, I think we can get you a grad school one.
Let's put a note on that.
We were playing, Jimmer. You'll love this. We were playing in a benefit thing. This is a few years ago against a bunch of University of Utah guys, and it was Brian Johnson and his crew, and I'd put a whole crew together with Johnny Harley and a bunch of guys. And we went up at Cottonwood High School, filled the place up. We're playing a flag football game, and we had this great plan. And all planned ahead. When we got down inside the 20-yard line, the announcer said, "Oh, it looks like BYU's bringing in the secret weapon." Sean Bradley comes out of the tunnel, and he runs out, and he lines up at wide receiver for me. And he runs to the corner of the end zone. I throw it up there about 11 feet high, and the DBs look like midgets out there. And he just jumps up and he catches it and spikes it. It's one of my, I played in some big games in my life, but that was one of the most epic things I've ever done. It was so fun.
That's the greatest thing ever. That's the greatest thing. I love it. Sean's such a good guy and an athlete. He could play. He could run. He could jump. He could do all that stuff at that height. I'm sure he did not want to play tackle because the knees for sure were probably something he was worried about. But at flag, it's perfect.
Exactly. And then long before his cycling accident, I've seen. I feel so bad that took his ability to move and do all that away. But what a great representative Sean has been for the university as well.
Hey,
Absolutely.
We had Sean Olmstead on the show last week, the volleyball coach, and we were talking about that you were coming on the show this week, and he goes, "I got a Jimmer story." He goes, "Everyone's got one," so we were like, "Well, tell us." And he goes, "So over there at the Smith Fieldhouse, they've got the 2 floors for volleyball, and when they're practicing, no one gets to do anything on either floor because it's too loud." He goes, "Except for Jimmer. He was the only one that had this pass," and he said, "We'd be over there doing strategy and someone's bouncing a ball and we're like, go over there and tell whoever that the gym's closed," and the assistant would go look between the partition, look back, go, "It's Jimmer." And he goes, "Okay, that's good." And then he told us that during breaks with his team, he'd come over and rebound for you. Now that's some star power you had.
It was incredible. I had a pact with coach because obviously we didn't have a practice facility back then. We didn't have the annex. Back then, we were trying to fight for gym time with the rest of the students, right? And I got kicked out of the RB so many times trying to work out without a wristband, and all of these different things that happened. But I found out that they would practice. It would be in the mornings. They would practice, and they didn't use the third court. So I was like, oh man, I have to go over there and try to do this because they didn't patrol it as much. So I was like, "Coach, listen, can you vouch for me? Is it okay if I just go over there and shoot and get my workout in?" And he's like, "Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to do it." So that's what he's the reason for Jimmermania. Let's put it that way.
I love it. Did you, and he takes credit for it. Believe me, Sean takes credit for it. How many shots would you get up a day? Like, what was your goal off season? Let's say through high school and into college, and did you have a routine, a number of shots? I mean, Tyler Hawes told us that from the time he was in 6th grade, he never got up less than 100 free throws any day ever. And I'm like, well, that explains the 92% career, right? But what was how much? Because I want people to understand how much work it takes to be Jimmer.
Yeah, it takes a lot of work for sure. I mean, for me, it wasn't necessarily a certain amount of shots per day that I definitely did. But what I was always focused on is making sure that I was going game speed, right? And I didn't practice or get a workout in unless I was ready to go and going as fast as I possibly could. For me, if you're not going game speed at a workout, it's almost, it's not a great workout, honestly. Like when you get out in the court, it's such a different feel than when you're in practice. So if you're kind of just going 50% and then you get out the court, it's a much different shot. It's a much different lift on your shot. You're floating into it differently. So it was very much more like the quality of the shot over the quantity of the shot. Now I was the same as Tyler. I didn't leave the gym without making 100 free throws after any practice as well. Like I never did that. I always made 100, and I tried to make 100 in a row if I could. That was always my goal. I've reached it several times, but not always. I'd always get mad though if I missed one. So it would be so I'd for sure do that. I'd always get up my catch and shoot threes. But I had a whole regimen. I mean, obviously, I worked on shots that I would get in the game. So I worked on a lot of pull-up threes. I worked on a lot of transition ball screen shots. I worked on a lot of floaters. I worked on a lot of finishing at the basket, different things all over the court where I would get my shots in the game, because then I feel comfortable as soon as I get in.
All of that leads up to this question. Did you ever think that the phrase Jimmered, or as in you just got Jimmered, would become a thing?
No, I did not, but I guess my mom did. I mean, she's the branding expert over here. I mean, my real name is James. I've never been called it. It's only been Jimmer ever since I was young. She went into my schools and was like, "Hey, you're calling him Jimmer. I know it says James, but it's Jimmer."
What if you were in super trouble? What if you were in big trouble? Would you ever hear James from your mom?
No, they still would say Jimmer. Yep, they just would say it more sternly, right? And that happens several times, but yeah, it was always Jimmer.
Well, the branding worked, but you know what? The branding doesn't work unless the game goes along with it, right?
Yeah.
You can do all the branding you want, but if the product doesn't stand up to the branding, then it doesn't fly. And obviously, it flew for you, not just in the United States, but all over the world. Where's the most unusual place? We know you've played internationally a bunch, but where you got recognized and somebody came up to you and recognized you as Jimmer?
That's a great question. I don't know. I mean, I've been kind of all over the place. So, I mean, I've gotten recognized several times in European countries, just kind of walking around, like when we're in Israel, playing against Maccabi Tel Aviv. You walk around there and people would come up and be like, "Hey, I recognize you," and everything. And it's funny because I actually have had a lot of experiences where, missionaries would be over in a country in like Thailand or, a remote place in Africa. And they'd be like, "Wait, do you know Jimmer Fredette?" "Wait, do you know who that is?" Like, is that the same church or whatever? So I've had a lot of stories as far as that's concerned, but I've been, all over the places in China. Obviously all the remote places in China have been recognized in all the countries I've been in, which has been really, really fun. I mean, it's, basketball travels, that's for sure. And people love it.
Your kids are getting a little older, but are they amazed? Do they ever ask Dad, why does everyone know your name?
My oldest Wesley is starting to wonder, like when we get to the football game this year, and we get down on the field and people start chanting the name, and then she's just like, "Dad, why are they yelling your name? Like, this doesn't make any sense." Like I don't get it. And, they're like, "Why are they asking for autographs and pictures?" So she's starting to recognize it and starting to kind of pick it up a little bit. And, she calls me the best basketball player in the world, which I appreciate.
Nice.
And, so she's got it down. But, she's starting to recognize Taft, not quite yet. And obviously Grayson, not yet.
Right. And Whitney's still okay with it all, or do you get a lot of eye rolls now?
Yeah, no, she's always eye rolling. Yeah, she's she's like, "Are you kidding me? Like, this should not still be going on at all, like anything like that." But I mean, in Denver, it's great. We still we get recognized. We don't get recognized quite as much, so we're able to enjoy our time and have a great experience. And then when we get to Utah, we know a little bit more, right. Pictures, autographs, different things like that when we get there. So we expect that, and we appreciate the fans. She's always been great, and I always appreciate the fans too.
Yeah, and Whitney's an all-star too. Like Dave and I clearly outkicked our coverage, but as great as Jimmer is, he really I know he can sell because he got Whitney. That is for sure.
Oh yeah. Let me tell you what, it was like a 2-year sell job too. Like it wasn't just like a 1-week thing. I was on that sales job for a while. And, I kept following up and it ended up working. So now it's been great. She's the best.
I love it. Hey, we're visiting with Jimmer Fredette and the Wise Guys. The 2011 John Wooden Award winner, the best college basketball player in America. We're glad you're all here with us listening in, and we see it on the live chat. We'll get to some of the questions that you're putting up there. Hey, Jimmer, 12 times you score 40 or more points during your senior year in high school in Glens Falls. And not very many people know where Glens Falls is, but I know where Glens Falls is because I grew up in Elmira.
Absolutely.
Yet so few colleges understood the talent and offered scholarship to you. What was the deal with that? I'm amazed that more didn't come after you at that time.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, I mean, it was before social media. I think that's one of the reasons, you can't just put yourself out there. You're sending tape into people, or if they don't see you live, then, that's just the way it worked back in the day. I say back in the day as if I'm older, but, it still was before social media, which is crazy to think about. But, I would go to these tournaments. I was on a good AAU team. We go all over the country. We played against guys like Derrick Rose or Eric Gordon or Michael Beasley or OJ Mayo. And we'd go, and I'd still play really well. I'd have my 20, 25 points for the game, play well. But the problem was that the coaches weren't really there to see me. They were there to see the other guys. And they'd be like, oh, the kid, he played well. But then they would never watch me again. They wouldn't follow up. They'd follow the other guys, right? So the only two that would ever do it was Coach Rose and Fran McCaffrey from Siena College. Those were the two that were always at my games. They were following me no matter what. That's one of the main reasons why, I love BYU, and they put a lot of effort into me and my family, and came to a football game and all that stuff. So because of that, that's the big reason why I chose it. But I've seen a lot of coaches afterwards, Jay Wright at Villanova, Coach Boeheim at Syracuse, and some of the other coaches, and we're all like, I'm so sorry we missed you. He's like, you should have been on the team. I should have offered you a scholarship, and, after the fact. So they recognized it afterwards. But I just was from a small school. They didn't think I was playing against great competition, and didn't know about me.
Well, look how the stars aligned for you and your destiny of who you are today, and how that became, which started with just the scenario you painted. Somehow you had to get to BYU. And one of the reasons your sister was out here, and there weren't a lot of scholarship offers, but you come and you play off the bench as a freshman, start every game but one as a sophomore, and then things take off as a junior. What happened between your sophomore and junior seasons that prepared you for this launch?
Yeah, I started to feel towards the end of my sophomore year that I was becoming one of the leaders of the team, right? And, I just felt like during conference play, coach was leaning on me a lot. My teammates were leaning on me a lot to score the basketball, make the right decisions in big games, in big conference games against really good quality opponents. So I knew at that point I had solidified a spot where, I was going to be, starting point guard. And so at that point, it was like, hey, for me, I had two goals, right? Like, one of the goals was I wanted to make sure that our team made it to the tournament every single year and advanced in the tournament. And we had to have a great season in order to do that. And then secondly, my individual goal was always to make it to the NBA. So I was very focused on both of those things. And I knew that I had to get way better if I was going to be able to do that, right? And so I just kept working. A lot of time in the summer, getting shots up, working on my body, working on my quickness, my athleticism, my strength, all of these things to just try to prepare me, knowing that I was going to play a lot of minutes that next year, and, that I was going to be one of the captains of the team, and that if, the team was going to go as I was able to help. So I put a lot of effort into it, and, just got working that summer.
We wanted, as we go forward in this, kind of take a stroll down memory lane with you. But before we get into that, because we want to talk about some of the things that you did during that time. But as we go back and look at those couple of years, your junior and senior year, I always marvel at how much talent was on that basketball team. Yeah. And hard to match that amount of talent. When I think of BYU teams, and, Dave and I are old dudes, so we've been doing this a long, long time. I'd be hard-pressed to find a team, maybe other than that team that Danny and those guys played with in 80, that had the all-around talent that this team that you played with your junior and senior year had. What about that, and what about that collection of talent? How fun was that to play with that group?
It was incredible. I mean, not only was it an amazing collection of talent, but everyone bought into their role too. You had guys that probably could have gone other places and been starters, or been high volume guys right off the bat, that decided that they wanted to come to BYU because of Coach Rose and what we were building there, and took a little bit of a lesser role, from the beginning, right? So even a guy like Tyler coming in his freshman year, was incredible. Played a lot of minutes, but still was splitting minutes with Charles and some of these other guys. Obviously he had a pick of his litter. He was such a great high school player. Kyle Collinsworth, other guy that was highly recruited. Brandon Davies, Chris Collinsworth. And then of course I have to throw Jackson in there, even though I don't want to. And, all these guys that were just incredible people, and they had one goal in mind. They wanted to win, and that was it. And I loved all of our guys. Such a talented group. As you can see, a lot of guys wanted to play professionally at a high level, and still playing to this day.
That's great. Hey, so we're going to go down memory lane here. We're going to throw a date and the score, and then we want you to tell us something unique about that night. Now, you won a lot of games, but we've picked the best of the best. You ready?
All right, let's do it.
Let's go. December 28, 2009. You score 49 at Arizona, which is a McHale Center record. What happened that night?
What an unbelievable night. No one expected us to go in that night and beat Arizona. They were a top 10 team at the McHale Center. They never lose in that arena. Amazing fans. And right from the get-go, I just was feeling it for some reason. I had a bunch of threes in the first half. I think Jackson scored a bunch. Guys we were just feeling really good offensively and defensively. I think I had 9 threes that game. I think somewhere in that area, and just the basket was huge, right? And then I just remember at the end the fans at the McHale Center giving us a standing ovation as we left, and that was something that I remember.
Wow.
On a night like that, when you say the basket was huge, what's that like when you say the basket is huge?
Yeah, no, it just is. You get into this zone. It's kind of like when you're I try to always, liken it to when I'm working out, right? When I work out, I try to find a zone when I'm playing where I'm just zoning out and I'm actually just making shots effortlessly, not thinking about it at all, not worrying about anything that's going on. It's just the ball's going up and making baskets. And you can end up making 20, 25, 30 in a row from three, and you're not even thinking about it. And then I try to translate that into the game where it's that's the same thing. I'm just going through my workout, basically. It doesn't matter what the defense is doing. It doesn't matter what they're trying to do. I have a counter for all of it. And once I get to my spot, if I get that shot up, I feel like it's going in. So you just feel like you're in that zone, like you're working out, getting your shots off, like there was no one there and nothing, and you're just in an empty gym by yourself.
I know that zone. I get in that zone when I'm shoveling the walk. You're just out there.
I thought you got in it when you were eating Captain Crunch.
Well, that too.
Sometimes I see that look in his eye when he's eating Captain Crunch.
Bite after bite.
Yep.
It's perfect.
He doesn't even think about it. It's mindless when he just shovels it down.
It's a focus. It's unique.
So, okay, let's fast forward to March 11th, 2010. You have 45 points against TCU. You set a Mountain West Conference tournament record. Now, you're going to go on and break that later. We'll talk about that later. But at that time, a Mountain West tournament record, 45 against TCU.
Yeah, that was an awesome night. Like I said, everybody there, all of our teams that were in the Mountain West Conference were really good. I think that was a first-round game that we played. We were, we wanted to make sure that we beat those guys to advance in the tournament, right? It's just survive in advance. At that point, we're still fighting for a spot in the NCAA tournament. We figured we'd probably make it, but that's a big game for us. Just went out there, started feeling good, and my teammates always do a good job of finding me when I'm feeling good and in the zone. Coach Rice, Coach Rose were like, "Hey, run some plays for him, get him involved, let him shoot the basketball." And so I appreciate that from everyone. But it was a great game, big game for us to be able to advance in the tournament.
Speaking of the tournament, go to March 18th, 37 points against Florida in the first round of the Big Dance.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite games. We hadn't advanced in the tournament, the BYU, for a long time. And that was one of our goals that year. We wanted to make the tournament and then advance in the tournament. And, Florida was a really good opponent, had some really great players on that team, Chandler Parsons and some other guys, just solid players. And I think it was double overtime that game?
I think so.
It's double overtime. Yeah. And to be able to win that game was something that was super special for us as a program. All the hard work we put in finally paid off, and we're able to win a game and kind of get that monkey off our backs.
We are walking through Jimmer Mania with Jimmer Fredette on the Wise Guys. Next week, Danny Ainge will join the show.
Yeah. Hey, let's go to December 8th, 2010. this is kind of a special game, not because it's a special team you're playing, but because it's in Glens Falls. So you're
Yes.
back home. You get 26 points against Vermont. But I remember there were 6,300 fans in attendance. That's got to be half the population of Glens Falls there. How fun was that? And what was that like to go back home and play?
It was unbelievable. I know Coach Rose, he always tries to get a game, close to one of his seniors' hometown, right? Like, so that the hometown can kind of come see him. Most of the kids are from the West Coast, Utah, obviously is easy, California, Arizona. A lot of these places are pretty easy, but my place, Glens Falls is not an easy place to get back to. And they ended up putting it smack dab in the middle of Glens Falls in the Civic Center, literally 5 blocks from where I grew up, right? And Vermont was kind enough to be able to come and play us. They had a good team at the time, but I just remember it was probably the only time you'll see BYU fans in the front row with blue, wearing Cougar stuff, with a beer in their hands, drinking it. Having a great time. So I think that was probably one of the only times you'll see that. But it was an incredible event. Loved it. Danny Ainge was there. He came up from Celtics when he was there. A lot of people came up to watch the game, and one of my favorite games of all time for sure, because literally half the town was there.
I hope you had some elementary school teachers that were there that came up and said, "See, we told you could become something."
Yeah, no, everyone was there. I promise. All my teachers from 1 K through 12 were all there. And, we all know each other by names, and, just everyone, Youth Little League, everyone was there. So it was fun.
Awesome. January 11th, 2011, you score 47 at Utah, including a half-court shot to beat the buzzer at halftime. What a night. And that's – Utah wasn't great, and I do remember BYU fans took over the arena up there in Salt Lake, and you put on a show.
Yeah, for sure. We put on a show. I think I had a great game, had the half-court shot, walked in all stoic. People loved it, all that stuff. The only thing that was shown on ESPN, I swear, was the missed dunk that I had. So I think I'm pretty sure that was the only thing that came up on ESPN, but they put up at 47 at least. But so that I remember that. I remember the half-court shot. I do have had a lot of Utah fans ever since then come up and be like, just wanted to let you know we were secret BYU fans that year. Just we loved it, we enjoyed it, we had a great time. So I won't name any names or anything, but it was a great time, and it's always fun to play against University of Utah just because it's such a great rivalry. It's a lot of fun, and we enjoyed it.
It's best to keep those identities behind the scenes.
Hey, was it more fun to beat them in front of your fans at the Marriott Center, or just the uniqueness of blowing them out in front of their fans?
No, it's always better to win in the other arena, in my opinion. I love that stuff. I mean, just because it doesn't matter where it was, we had that 2011 season in particular. I mean, the arenas were full before we started warming up, right? Like the student sections were there.
Yeah.
So I'd sit there and I'd stand right next to the student section before the game started, just so I could hear everybody yelling stuff at me and just get myself pumped up as much as I can, knowing that hopefully we can shut you up at the end and be able to, walk out of here with a victory. That was what we wanted.
We always talk about that on the show, Jimmer, where I just say, listen, this is a game in an angry place, which you can get energy from a hostile opponent's crowd as well as you can at home. And some people don't understand that, but I know you do. Hey, I want to make a comment about that January 11th game. So your half-court shot was the Sports Center #1 play of the day. So it was the top 10. It was #1. And sometimes
the dunk must have been number 2.
So sometimes
exactly.
they'll just take the announcer's call on the Sports Center top 10. Right. That night, my call of you hitting that shot, they took. All my friends back in New York called me. He's like, dude, you were the #1 play. You were the #1 play on Sports Center Day. I'm like, what are you talking about? No, you were the #1 play on Sports Center. Like your voice. I'm like, what are you talking about? They go, Jimmer's half-court shot. You called it. And I'm like, oh wow.
That's hilarious.
Awesome.
I love it.
So I wrote on your coattails to get my voice on the Sports Center #1 play of the day.
Nice. We did that together.
Yes,
that was us.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Hey, let's take you to February 5th, 2011. You scored 29 against UNLV at the Marriott Center, which is a big deal. But the bigger deal is you become the Mountain West Conference all-time leading scorer. What did that mean to you?
Yeah, that's a big deal. I mean, there's some great players that have come through the Mountain West Conference, and obviously it took a long time to get there. That's my senior year at the very end. So obviously it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of consistency to stay healthy throughout the whole time, and then have a team that truly believes in you and lets you go out there and do your thing. To be able to break that record was something that was super special, and something I definitely won't forget.
March 11th. Month later, 52 against New Mexico at the Thomas and Mack Center.
That was nuts.
With all the McCann kids sitting like on the top row of that place. You break Danny Ainge's all-time record. I think you did it with one free throw in the whole thing, but you get 52. What was going through your mind? I knew you were in that zone, but when you came out of the zone and realized what you did while you were in the zone, what did you think of?
It was such a fun night, just because, I mean, prefacing that whole thing, we were not supposed to beat New Mexico. Like that was a game that everyone thought that we were going to lose. They had beat us twice that year. They had our number for some reason. They were the only two losses that we had in conference, and we only had 3 for the whole year. So we lost to them twice. And I was super mad at that. And I was just like, I don't want to lose this game. I really don't. I'm going to do everything I can. I might shoot way too much, but hopefully they're going in, because if they go in, then hopefully we have a chance to win. And so we ended up winning that game, and I was able to break, a bunch of different records in that game. And then afterwards, just, seeing, my family up there, Whitney, and, just everybody, just to be able to enjoy that moment afterwards and realize, what I was able to accomplish is special. There's a lot of hard work that goes into this, a lot of hours, a lot of years that goes into this type of work. So to be able to see some fruits of your labor is really exciting, and something that I was truly grateful for.
We'll ask Danny next week, but what do you remember Danny telling you after that?
Yeah, he was just, he said, congratulations, you deserve it. And he said that, told me I was a great player and obviously a great person. So, he said he was happy that it happened with me. When deep down, I'm sure he was like, I don't like that you beat my record. And because that's how everyone thinks, right? Then I get that. And then Tyler goes and breaks it in like 2 years. I'm like, Tyler, you couldn't have waited. Like I couldn't have the record for, maybe 20 years like Danny, or 30 years like Danny did. Like he had to go and break it like right away. I didn't like that.
It didn't seem right for Tyler to do that.
He was on the show, and we talked to him about that, and he doesn't feel bad about it at all.
He does not feel
bad.
bad.
He doesn't. I talked to him about it. He doesn't feel bad about it. And I've tried, I don't know.
He did admit that he said Danny and I played a lot more as freshmen than Jimmer did. So he admitted that.
That is true. That is true. But I think I had the ultimate green light as a senior.
Yes, that's true.
So I mean, that was something that was a little different too.
And sometimes Danny reminds us that there was a 3-point line.
Goes like, there's no 3-point line
during the Jimmer era.
Totally. Yeah, I agree.
Hey, let's fast forward a week after that great New Mexico game where we were all shaking our head. I called that game too, by the way. March 19th, 2011. Now you're in the tournament, and you score 34 against Gonzaga to return to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, probably my favorite game, just because of the fact that we were able to reach our goal, making it to the Sweet 16. Obviously, we wanted to advance further than that, but to make it to the Sweet 16 for the first time since Danny's teams, it was special for the university. Just kind of shows that BYU was here for real, and that we were someone to be reckoned with, that we could advance, that we could make noise in the tournament, that we had, a top tier program, and Coach Rose was doing a great job running it. So I think that all of those things laid true, and it was just it was a special night, something that, I'll never forget, to be able to achieve that with our team, and how excited we were, how excited Coach Rose was, and everybody in the organization and at BYU. And those moments are things that'll live on forever, and people will always remember those things. So to be able to accomplish it was amazing.
And when you think about it, the Zags were kind of the crown jewels of the hidden Mountain West. This was a public beatdown, and it really said that, it really kind of announced that BYU was for real and serious.
Yeah, again, like a lot of those games, we were kind of underdogs, right? Like, once we didn't really have a true center at that point. We had Kyle Collinsworth playing center, most of the time during that time period, and playing a lot of zone and doing a lot of different things. So, I mean, yeah, to be able to do that and play the way that we played, the heart we played with, and be able to beat a great team like Gonzaga, who had pros on their team that went on to do great things, and obviously just an amazing program in general.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of foreshadowing of what was to come down the road as we embarked into the WCC.
Jimmer Fredette's on the Wise Guys as we revisit Jimmermania, which was not limited to his time at BYU. Let's go to June 23rd, 2011, Blaine.
Yeah, drafted 10th overall pick in the NBA draft by the Bucks, then immediately traded to the Kings. I'm still not happy about that.
I was at an event. Let me just tell you about that. I was at an event that night with Dale Earnhardt Jr. emceeing something at a go-kart track in Vegas. And I had lunch with George Maloof earlier in the day, who I'd gotten to know while my time in Vegas. He texts me. I looked at my phone. He goes, "Hey, we're getting Jimmer." And then a few minutes later, they announced the trade that got you from Milwaukee. I felt like an insider for like 5 minutes. But,
you knew before I did.
But
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly. You might have.
Yeah.
But we were so excited to have you in the lottery pick group. What did that feel like?
Yeah, that was fun. I mean, it was a little bit of a bummer just because it wasn't at Madison Square Garden like it normally was. Like that year, it was Madison Square Garden was getting renovated, so we had it at the Prudential Center in New Jersey, and still a cool, obviously an amazing experience to be able to be there with your fellow, athletes that are going to be drafted, and be able to go up and shake, Commissioner Stern's hand. Yeah. And do all the stuff and put the hat on and have the pictures and all of those things. It's a special night because I was able to be there with my family and to achieve a goal that I've truly been trying to achieve my whole life. Like that there's not a whole lot of words that you can put into that. It just is emotion that you feel. And it was special. It was super fun. And the only problem is that I was there forever because of the trade. Yeah. I was in the draft room. They won't let you come out and do all of your media stuff until the trade properly goes through. And my trade took forever. It literally took probably 3 or 4 hours.
Really?
I was the last one out of the building. I was walking out with the janitors, and didn't get to my draft party, so I didn't get to see anybody afterwards. So that kind of stunk. But other than that, it was a great night.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm watching Jimmer, and I'm just a little selfish because I want my guys to be at places where I think they'll utilize them. And I was just like, I felt the same way when you got traded to the Kings, Jimmer, that I felt when Zach got drafted by the Jets. I was like, no. I grew up with the Jets. Please, no. Like, can't he go one? Can't he go third to the Niners, please? Right. And I kind of felt the same way a little bit with the Kings. I'm like, oh no, not the Kings. I want Jimmer with San Antonio or someplace where he'll thrive. But hey, in the draft, you go where you got to go. And
I mean, it's a lot of, in the professional leagues for 85% of the people that are in the league, it's about situation, right? It's about timing and situation. You got to find the right time. You got to find the right situation, a coach that believes in you in the right spot. Maybe an injury occurs or something where you get a chance to play. A lot of these things are what happen in order for you to get your shot, right? And sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. And it's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Taysom was like that. Remember, he went to the Packers and got cut.
Yeah.
But then the Saints got him and said, "We got a vision for you." And then he hasn't left.
Yeah, and everybody's like, "Packers, are you idiots?" Exactly. So hey, but February 12th, 2013, you have your NBA career high, where you go for 24 in the Kings' overtime victory against the Knicks. What was that like?
The Knicks, the New York Knicks.
Yep. The team you and I grew up with.
That was incredible. I mean, to play in Madison Square Garden, my favorite arena, in the world, just so much buzz. The lighting is different. You feel like you're on a stage. All the celebrities that are there, to play in front of my hometown where there was a lot of friends and family that were there at the game, to be able to be a big part of our win. That's a lot of fun, and be able to feel like a little bit like Jimmer back in college days where I was just shooting threes and making them and helping our team win. So that was super fun. And one little story about that, Ben Stiller was sitting on the sidelines, and I know we had a jump bars, little side out where I had to take the ball out, and Ben Stiller was right there. And he's like, "Hey, Jimmer, will you please stop making shots?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Stiller." And I'm like, "Why didn't you just call him Ben?" I don't know. I was like, all proper and everything. I didn't know what to say, starstruck and everything. So Yeah, that was a great moment. But I was able to meet him afterwards when I was in Westchester. He came and watched a couple games of ours with his kids. So he's an awesome person.
That's cool.
That's fun. That's
awesome.
fun.
All right, let's put these 2 dates together. A few more questions with Jimmer Fredette here tonight on the Wise Guys. February 19th and November 11th, both in 2017, different seasons. You get 73 for the Shanghai Sharks in February. You come back with 75 for the Sharks in November. Now, that's just nuts.
Fathom
that's
that.
just nuts.
We saw the highlights, but what the heck? 73 and 75? How does that even happen?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. I think I'm the only person I think over in China to score over 73 times, and it's just like I don't honestly know. I mean, they expect us to score a lot of points over there. Like that's why they bring Americans over to play, right? Either you're a really great rebounder and can block a lot of shots, or you can score the basketball extremely well, right? So, excuse me. So, I was on the scoring avenue. I wasn't rebounding, blocking a ton of shots or anything like that, obviously. But, so for me, they were just like, hey, shoot the basketball. And every time I got into the zone, my big guy, Max, who was, he's from China, but he went to the University of California to play basketball. So he spoke perfect English, but he was 7'3". And every time I'd come over half court, he'd be like, I'm going to set you a screen. Just shoot it. Every time. So I literally would come up the court. He'd set it over at half court, set the screen. I'd navigate it and I'd shoot it. And he's like, when you're feeling it, just let me know. And we just kept running it over and over and over. And, that basket seems so big when you start playing and start hitting those shots. And I don't know how it happens, to be honest with you. It's like hard to remember because it's such a lot. It's so many points that you don't really know how you get there. You just kind of just shoot and all of a sudden you're there.
Amazing 2 nights. Actually 3 nights, because 3 times over 70 for Jimmer in that league. Unbelievable.
Jimmer, what will it mean to you when the day comes that your jersey goes up in the rafters there at the Marriott Center?
That'll mean so much to me. Obviously, BYU it's a second home to me. I mean, I just love being in Utah. I love being in Provo. The people that I've met there, the relationships that I met there. Obviously, I met my wife there. I still have lifelong friends that are in Utah and at BYU. To be able to have the jersey up in the rafters is something that you leave a legacy forever. So people will remember it. And, so whenever I go back to BYU, I'll feel comfortable. I'll feel at home. And, I feel like I belong. And it's just it's such a cool feeling. So hopefully it happens, and I'm excited about it.
It's going to happen, and it'll be a special night.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be a special night.
It's going to happen. Hey, BYU hosts Gonzaga Thursday night this week on ESPN. What do you think of this year's version of BYU? A lot of young guys. And what would it take for this young team to upset number 8 Gonzaga this week?
Well, we're going to have to be able to score with them. That's for sure. They obviously – They're a great team. Obviously, Drew Timmy's still there. He's been there for a long time. He's been
there since your senior year, I think.
I think so. I remember him being in red shirt, I think, that year. So he's been there forever, but he can score. Obviously, he's going to make the right play. He's going to do a lot of great things. We have some young guys that are really talented. For us, I think defensively we're really good. We're long. We can play good defense. I just think that we need to be able to score with them consistently, right? We can't go through a scoring drought where we're not scoring for 3, 4, 5 minutes. If that happens, they're going to continue to score the basketball at a high level. And then it's about trying to catch up, and it's difficult to catch up with a team like that. So being able to make open shots, I think we get open shots. I don't mind the shots that we're getting. I think we're getting good shots. It's just about making them and then continuing to play hard and feeding off the energy of the crowd. Obviously, the Rock and BYU is, the Marriott Center is going to be going nuts. So if they can feed off of that energy, get some easy buckets off of turnovers, make their open shots, and not have any scoring goals, I think they'll be in the game, and hopefully they can get a win.
First time in 3 years that the Zags haven't been number 1 or number 2 coming into this.
Hey, can you believe that they've been that good for that long? One of our streamers asked what advice you would give, especially for these young guys. You got 3 return missionaries on this team, Richie Saunders and Dallin Hall and Andy Toulson's son, Tanner Toulson. What advice would you give these young guys? And then there's some other young guys like Jackson Robinson's a young face that really hasn't played. There's so much young talent on this team. What advice would you give to these guys as they develop and move into the Big 12?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I love that they're playing. Like to be able to have guys that are freshmen, sophomores that are playing a lot of meaningful minutes is going to serve them so well moving forward in the next year, 2, 3 years, because they'll have a camaraderie together. When I was there, it was Jackson and I started ever since we were sophomores. So because of that, we had 3 years to grow together. So we knew exactly what we were going to do on the court, right? We knew exactly what was going to happen. So same thing with Dallin and Jackson and with Richie and these guys who are playing a lot of meaningful minutes will know what each other is going to be doing on the court. So for them, I would just say stay the course. You're going to go through your bumps and bruises, but I always want to make sure that they are playing their game and they're being aggressive. Like, I do not want them to be passive. Like, they need to go out there and just be aggressive, act like they're the leaders of the team, and go out there and play with that type of energy, that type of effort, that type of confidence every single night, because it's only going to get better if you do that. The confidence in yourself and your teammates are going to continue to grow and get better if you play that way ever since you're, a freshman. So just have the confidence, be yourself, play hard, and, make sure that you're putting out the same effort every night.
All right, Jimmer, we've been friends for a long time, so shoot straight with us. Will Jimmermania make it to the 2024 Paris Olympics in the 3-on-3 competition?
Oh, I would like to believe that, yes. I'm planning on being there. My wife told me that I need to go there. She wants to go on the trip. She wants to make it out to Paris. So she's like, you're making it to the Olympics, just so you know. So I'm like, all right, perfect. I'll put all I can into it. So I think we have a really, really good shot to be able to do that. And I also, I'm happy with how things are going. It's been a lot of fun. It's a different sport, but it's re-energizing. It's re-energized me. I've really enjoyed it, working out for it, and have a new goal in mind, which always is a lot of fun for me to try to go out and reach. So I think we're going to make it as long as we, play well this summer and stay healthy. And then from there, hopefully I'll be in 2024.
Now you're going to play in the FIBA 3x3 World Tour this summer, right? And what's that about? And can people see that? How can people see that?
Yeah, everything is streamed live on YouTube. So you can just put in 3-on-3, FIBA 3-on-3, and then they'll have an event that's going on that weekend. Now I'll probably play in 6 to 8 events from April until November or December, and help our team qualify and kind of just keep getting familiar with the sport, play against the competition that we'll be playing against in the Olympics. Like I said, a lot of these guys have been playing for, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. So they know how to play, and they're smart, and they're good basketball players. It's physical, big, strong guys. So you just have to kind of get used to all that stuff, all the elements that go with it, and then play your game. But all I know is that the 2 is worth a lot more than the 1, and that's what I'm going to continue to shoot.
Are you prepared for the resurgence of Jimmermania if you are going for a gold medal around here?
So fun.
I would hope so. I would love it. I mean, obviously, I'd love people to watch and bring some more familiarity to the sport. I think it's going to continue to grow because it is an Olympic sport. There's going to be a lot of people that be like, hey, this is my shot to be able to get to the Olympics. This is going to be a really cool thing. So I think that there's a lot of that'll happen. But if Jimmermania happens again in Paris, I would love it.
That's great stuff. Hey, by the way, we had Ashton Lunt, who was the NCAA champ in the javelin, on with us, and she just missed. She's coming off an injury, and she was really close to qualifying for the Olympics. And she goes, "That's okay. I didn't want to go to China anyhow. I will be in the Paris Olympics." So which I love her attitude, right? So we're going to have Ashton's telling us she's going to be there. You're going to be there. I think we have some other BYU folks that are going to be there as well. So BYU's going to be well represented in the Summer Olympics. In Paris. That's going to be fun. Our final minutes with Jimmer, and Blaine's got 5 quick questions for you here that we do with all of our guests that we're so fortunate to have come on the show with us. But before we get to that, how much joy has come from your efforts with the Jimmer Fredette Foundation?
Yeah, that's been so special. The people of Utah have been so gracious to myself and my family, and being able to donate and to help out with our foundation. We've started a Choose Kindness program where we're in over 60 schools across the country, helping kids promote and choose kindness, and teaching them how to be kind and how to be inclusive, how to treat people and the skills that you need in order to continue to have a great foundation moving forward, to just be nice to people and be kind. And it's been a great program so far. We're continuing to grow. The Cook Center for Human Resource, they have been such a great partner for us to be able to help out with Greg Cook and his family, who have been amazing to our foundation, and all the other great sponsors that we've had throughout the years that we truly appreciate. And it's all about the kids. They enjoy it. They love our programs, and it's really helping with kids change their lives. And it's the most important thing that I do, on a daily basis. So it's something that's special, and hopefully it continues to grow, and we can help as many people as we can.
Where can folks go to get more information to get involved with your foundation?
Yeah, Jimmerosity.org you can go to, or you can find us on Instagram or Twitter. Our handles are just @Jimmerosity. So you can go in there, find out more about it. We have links that you can click on to go to our website and get to our foundation president, Blair. And, so we're happy to have anybody that wants to help reach out and talk with them, and we truly appreciate it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we just put the link up on our live stream so that people can see that, click on that, and go. And what an unbelievable message. The world needs that message right now, so this is awesome. We love what you're doing, what Whitney's doing. You guys are a light to the world, that's for sure.
Are you ready? Well, you ready to get after him with 5 questions?
Oh, yeah. Of course.
Let's do it.
Okay. Let's do it.
You're not even allowed to, you just have to, it's like when you're in the zone, like you don't think about them, you just answer them. So
just answer. Got it.
Favorite sports movie?
Rocky.
Nice.
Oh, not Hoosiers.
Not Rocky 2, Rocky 1.
Rocky. The original Rocky.
All right.
Have you ever run those steps up to the up
yes.
in Philly? Oh yeah, me too. Stood up there and jumped around.
Like did you shadow box when you got to the top? Be honest.
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah, you have to, right?
Oh yeah, I absolutely do.
I love Rocky. I love Rocky so much. My wife has bought me like 2 or 3 different Rocky sweatshirts that I wear to work out sometimes.
I love that.
That's classic.
I love it. So okay, your favorite singer or band?
Ooh, right now, I'd say Panic at the Disco or Post Malone. One of those 2.
Hey, Gavin was showing me. Gavin, my youngest, he was showing me some old school Post Malone stuff the other day. Like he was like, I'm going, that's Post Malone
before the tattoos,
before the tats and all the piercings. But no, he was like singing a ballad. Dude is talented. It's unbelievable. He lives right here in Utah.
He's extremely talented. He's also from upstate New York.
That's right. Hey, have you seen this guy, Jimmer, Jelly Roll? Have you ever heard of Jelly Roll?
I've heard of him.
I want you to, like, later tonight, you and Whitney listen to Son of a Sinner by Jelly Roll. He's got some ties to upstate New York, too. My nephew ran into him up around Syracuse, and he sent me a picture. I'm like, who's that guy? He goes, Jelly Roll. You got to listen to him. I listened to him. I'm like, okay, this dude is good, and he reminds me of Post Malone a little bit. So
all right,
that's my recommendation for the night is Son of a Sinner by Jelly Roll. So Panic at the Disco, I like. That's a unique one. And
love him, Brendan Urie. He's got a voice. He's got a voice. I'll tell you that much.
So and you can't miss with Post Malone. So okay, your favorite breakfast cereal?
Reese's Puffs.
Nice.
Oh, Reese's Puffs. That's a new one.
Do the kids wipe out your supply of Reese's Puffs if you don't get to them fast enough?
I mean, they will for sure. I don't buy them often. I try to stay away from them because they're I love them so much that I just eat them all the time. And I didn't have them in my house growing up usually, but my friends used to have them at their house. So as soon as I got to my friend's house, I was eating bowls of cereal. Sorry, Mom. Sorry about that. But
no, I
was enjoying them.
Dennis Pitta told us that his cereal addiction, he doesn't get it either. I can't remember what it was, but he says if there's a box of it in his house, he eats it till it's gone.
He will eat the whole box.
Yeah,
that's what Dennis said.
Yeah, for sure. I love chocolate peanut butter. Anything is my thing.
See, you go to your friend's house when you're growing up in upstate New York, and you do stuff like. I remember going to my friend's house and drinking Diet Coke because I thought it was really, really bad to do. We never had Diet Coke at our house. And then I got out here to BYU, and it's like, no, there's nothing wrong with Diet Coke. No. Like, when did that change?
You were on the East Coast.
I covertly went and drank Diet Coke at the Fennell's house for years. I didn't even know there was nothing wrong with it. So
that's so funny.
So yeah, okay. You made 916 shots at BYU. That doesn't include free throws, of course. Do you have a favorite shot?
My favorite shot would probably be the Utah one. That's just the most memorable, the one that I remember. the most, just making it at half court. And then the reaction afterwards is the thing that the people love the most. So that was probably the most memorable one. But
what about your dunks?
Yeah, the dunks are so weak that it's just I'm like,
no, Jimmer, I'm good.
I don't know.
Jimmer's talking
I don't know if
about
I want to remember him.
Leave him alone. He's talking about the shot that made him and me
I
famous.
know it, but he got some. He threw some
exactly.
down.
Come on.
I do remember there's one San Diego State game too where when we were playing at home against San Diego State, and I had like a double crossover, and then I shot it. It was on a lot of different ESPN and highlights and everything. It's shown a lot. That one was a fun one, and then there was last one against TCU where I pulled up from really deep. Kid wasn't guarding me. I was right next to their coach, and I shot it because the kid wasn't guarding me, but I was like midway between half court. And he looked over at the coach, and the coach just like shrugged, and he's like, "You got to get on him. Like, what are you going to do?"
Well, we talk about now, the Marriott logo out on the floor, and it's like, well, Jimmer used to shoot from the A.
We got geographical references
out there. We know where you would shoot from that
absolutely.
Marriott Center logo out there, and we're like, no, please do not disgrace the name by saying that was Jimmer's own. Jimmer would shoot from the A, not from the T. Please.
Appreciate that.
Okay, and last one is very important. What's the favorite piece of advice that Whitney has ever given you?
Oh,
Get this right.
She's taught me a lot of different things, but the one thing that she's taught me two different things that I can think of right now that were really important. One is she's like, you got to talk to people. Stop being so shy. Like it's like you're talking to a wall sometimes when they're talking to you, and you need to open up and start talking to people. So I've gotten much more charismatic and much more open in talking to people as I've gotten older and gotten to be with Whitney. So that was one thing. And also, don't procrastinate. Like, just get things done. Go, like, it makes you feel much better. Don't wait until the last minute. Like, when someone says to do something, get it done right away. You won't have to worry about it. You won't have to think about it afterwards. And that's been great advice for me too. So those two things have been huge.
Words to live by, right there.
Yep, don't procrastinate.
Hey, Danny Ainge is going to join us next week. Do you have a question you want us to ask him?
Oh my goodness! Yeah, what is he going to do with the Jazz the rest of the season?
that's a good one.
What about
I'm sure
the
we'll
Jazz?
get into that. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! They've been such a good surprise, and they've been playing such good basketball. They have a lot of fun players on the team. So he did a masterful job, obviously, with the two trades and getting all he has back and still being competitive. And I think the biggest thing that he did also was hiring Will Hardy. I was with Will a little bit when I was in San Antonio, and the guy's just he's a stud. So he's a great coach and someone that's going to keep him competitive for a long time.
I thought you might say, hey, tell Danny the three-point line's way overrated. You know,
we'll tell him that. I'll tell him that. I'll tell him that. So
yeah, exactly right.
So
hey, we sure appreciate you.
We appreciate you. Please give our love to Whitney. And by the way, Grandpa Fowler and my dad would be mad if I didn't give you a long distance hug and send one to Whitney from Grandpa Fowler. He loves you guys.
They're the best. They're the best. I saw them before every game. Walked right down the stairs, gave them both a hug, and walked down the stairs.
Yeah, I love you guys.
Hey, let me finish with this quick story, and if you've heard it before, it'll be just as cool. Your senior year, my son Andrew and I came to a game. I was calling the game, and you were warming up, and I brought him with me and introduced him to you, and you talked to him for a couple of minutes, and then the game went on and was crazy and all that. And then we're walking out after the game with Elder L. Tom Perry of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, and we're visiting, and he finds out that Andrew's about to become a deacon, about to turn 12, and so they have a little PPI right there on the sidewalk, and I walked ahead, got in the car. I thought, man, this is crazy, and so Andrew finally comes, he runs, he jumps in the front seat, and I'm sitting there, and it's kind of quiet, as the dad, you're like, I said, well, you've had quite a night, and he goes, I can't believe I met Jimmer. And as a dad, you're like, well, you did also meet a member of the Quorum of the 12, and he talked to you face to face, and he goes, yeah, that was cool too.
Yeah, exactly. That's so funny. Elder Perry actually used to come into the locker room every once in a while after the games. He was incredible. He's such a good guy, but just very funny. Like he was a jokester. He'd crack a joke at everyone's locker when he would shake their hand. And big guy too. Yeah, he's a big guy.
Oh yeah.
Hey, there was a lot of tall members of the 12 back in those days. Elder Perry told us a story one time. You know how they sit in that front row right behind where Dave and I are when we're calling the games, and he was saying BYU was playing Notre Dame at home, and this was when Devin was playing, and Devin went down and scored, and as he turned to circle back and run down and play defense, one of their power forward put his forearm right in Devin's face and knocked him flat on the ground.
Gotcha.
No call. So, but the cameras kind of panned down, and coach was yelling at the official, and you could see this large white-haired man stand up right in the middle of the camera and scream at the ref, and you could read his lips, and he said, "What is wrong with you, ref? Are you blind?" And then you saw a small hand go up on his shoulder and sit him back down, and he told us, "Yeah, I had to settle down because I don't know if you saw, but I made television pretty much front and center, and my wife had to grab me on the shoulder and sit me back down. And I'm trying to be better at the games, but he asked the ref if he was blind, which I appreciate so much that he did that.
Hey, sports will do that to all of us. That's unfortunate. We're all human. Sports will do that to all of us.
Yes, it will. So.
Well, Jimmer, you did great things with the basketball, but the kind of person you are and how you represent the Y is your legacy, and that's why when you walk into the Marriott Center, everyone's just so stoked to see you, or in an airport or in Tel Aviv or wherever, and we salute you for that. And we look forward to seeing you the next time
and we're
you're out here.
So grateful you'd spend an hour with us, and we hope the hour felt like the 75 points. You look back and it didn't feel like it was an hour, but
absolutely, I was in the zone the whole time. But
I love it.
No, I appreciate you guys. I love listening to you guys. You guys are great. You guys are two of the best on the calls. I often find myself when you guys are making a call being like, I was thinking that exact same thing. So I feel like we're on the same wavelength. You guys are awesome. So keep up the good work. I appreciate it, what you guys are doing for BYU and for the sports, and I hope to be able to do this again with you guys.
Thank you, Jimmer. We appreciate it very much.
The great Jimmer Fredette. Give our best to Wesley, Taft, and Grayson. In fact, you can go tell them how great you were since we just spent the last hour talking about it.
Absolutely.
Give them a bedtime story.
I could hear them listening to it in the other room, so I don't know if they were fully listening, but they had it on.
If they were listening, I hope they heard how awesome their mom is, too, because she is amazing. Whitney. So
thanks, Jimmer.
Okay, thanks, guys.
See you guys. See you, Jimmer.
What a visit with Jimmer Fredette, one of the most how can we say this, impactful player in the history of BYU, and there have been some great ones. And you think of Kresh Machosic, and you think of Danny Ainge, and in these eras, and Jimmer Fredette came along, and we saw some comments on our live stream that there was just nothing more exciting than what Jimmer brought to the floor, especially during that junior and senior year. We just hadn't seen anything like it. The Mountain West hadn't seen anything like it. And the way college basketball reacted, they hadn't seen anything like it. And I remember seeing his picture on the front page of Sports Illustrated after he lit up Gonzaga, and it was the big time from right here in Provo.
And you know, it put BYU on the national map and national spotlight again. And they had been in years past, but it put BYU back squarely in the national radar. And those battles that Jimmer and Kawhi had with BYU and San Diego State were as good as any basketball games in the country at that time. And eyeballs were glued to their TV sets when they met 3 times that season, 2 times in the regular season and in the finals of the Mountain West Conference tournament. And to have those 2 caliber of players in the Mountain West at that time playing the way they were playing. And Jimmer changed basketball. He changed college basketball. People wanted to be Jimmer. They wanted to shoot from long distance.
And we noticed back then, and we were talking about the other day as we were getting ready for a game, the fan reaction changed to where now fans are just as loud to see a three-point shot as a dunk. Usually the dunkers were rewarded with the big thunderous roar. But now if you see a transition 3 where someone's driving at full speed and like Jimmer used to do, and just all of a sudden he's up for 3 and buries it, bananas. That's replaced the slam dunk.
Yeah.
So what do little kids want to do? They want to back up.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they skip the free throw line and they just want to back up further.
The problem is that they work on dunks off the mini tramp and they work on their 3-point shot, but nobody has a mid-range game anymore like our boy Tyler Haws.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody has that anymore. But and what a great ambassador for basketball all over the world. Like what he did in China, he was like one of the most famous people in the country in China. And you know, his career there was cut short a little bit by the pandemic because things shut down. But he did phenomenal things over there and represented BYU and the church extremely well in that country. And
our podcast will be up tomorrow morning, and look for our emails too. If you go to ysguys.com, sign up for that, and you'll get clips from our Jimmer interview. And this one's going to have some legs. It was fun to walk through all the
so fun.
the Jimmer mania and get his take on what a coach said to him and what he felt and what this moment meant to him that we often gets lost in the noise of just greatness.
Well, and here's something I want people to remember, because you and we had a front row seat with Jimmer, and we've been friends for a long time. We got to watch him up close during his career, along with Tyler Hawes and all these greats that have played. We've been right there with him. And Jimmer is this. It's funny that he says that Whitney told him to be more approachable, because I felt like he's always been just really gracious and really kind and really easy to talk to. But you know, and he always looks like he's having fun out there when he's playing. He loves pulling up and shooting a three-pointer right in somebody's face, right? Always looks like he's having fun. But the volume of work that he put in to be as proficient as he is at shooting the basketball is unbelievable. People don't have any concept of how much work he had to put in to craft his game to be able to play the way he did.
And isn't that the underlying thing to greatness? Look at Larry Bird, Michael Jordan.
Every one of them. Every one of them.
None of them skipped the work to be great.
The work, there's got to be skill there. They have to have a talent.
Yeah.
But talent without just ridiculous work ethic and repetitive shots in basketball, it doesn't translate. And we watched him work from the time he came on campus, and it extended back to when he was in high school. You know, we heard Tyler Hawes tell us he never had a day that he didn't get 100 free throws up. You know, Jimmer told us the same thing. Oh no, I wouldn't go off the floor without making 100 free throws ever. And I tried to make 100 in a row. And then you wonder why he steps up in a game. And then he said something that was really...
Why he's money in crunch time.
Yeah, he said something really interesting that a lot of players could learn from. He said, I never worked out at more than full game speed, because if you're not working out at game speed, so you're not running up and down the floor and sweating and just as tired as you're going to be in the game, then in the game, your shot has a different elevation. You're not getting quite as much elevation. You're doing, like, it doesn't translate out on the floor. So he always made sure when he was doing a workout, a shooting workout, that he did it at full speed and game speed, so that when he got in the game, it translated to the game. That's a phenomenal lesson for young players to learn from, that's what he did. And he was a fierce competitor and an unbelievable worker. I remember before the New Mexico game down there where he had the 52, he went and he shot, let me think of this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he shot 5 spots, 5 threes at each spot. So 25 threes, and he had somebody rebounding and just shoot and put the ball out. This was in warm-ups when he just came out early to shoot before the New Mexico game. He went around, he made 24 out of 25 threes in that little workout. And I remember turning to my play-by-play guy going, okay, this could be something special tonight, because I just watched Jimmer make 24 out of 25 threes. People just don't do that. And then he went off in that game. But the reward for hard work is that you're great out on the floor. And people need to realize that all these guys that we get a chance to talk to, we talked to Tyler Hawes, we talked Ashton Lunt,
Mark Wilson,
all
Robbie
these folks,
Bosco, any of them.
Any of these folks that we've talked to. And we're going to talk to Danny Ainge next week. And Danny had the same reputation, just an incredible work ethic. That kind of goes unnoticed sometimes because it's behind the scenes, but that's what it takes to be great.
I liked what he said about the 2024 Paris Olympics. Can you imagine if Jimmer becomes an Olympic story?
Oh, my gosh.
Not just Jimmer and all the background that they'll do leading the games, but then Jimmer becomes an Olympic story and has a shot at a gold medal, and Cougar Nation will be out of their minds.
If he gets to the Olympics in 3-on-3, I might let Brenda convince me to go to Paris, because she always likes to go to Paris. So, like, if she says let's go to Paris for the Olympics,
that'll be a hot ticket if
I
Jimmer's
might figure out a way to get over there if Jimmer's there.
Some more basketball news now that Jimmer set the tone for. I thought was interesting, spot on with the keys for Thursday night.
Oh man, yeah.
Against Gonzaga, the basketball team beat San Diego 68-48 Saturday after losing at LMU last Thursday. So now they're 13-6, and they're 3-1 in the WCC. I thought was impressive. Their bench outscored San Diego 29-0.
Yeah, that was big.
And Atiki started producing in double figures.
He's starting to get to feel his offense, right? He has 12 points in that one. We've seen his offensive game. Like, we're Atiki Ali Atiki was last year compared to where he is this year with offensive skill set is just so night and day. Foose had 15 in that game, but when Atiki goes 12 and Foose goes 15, that's a big deal for BYU.
So Thursday night, number 8 Gonzaga at the Marriott Center. As we mentioned earlier, it is sold out. Game starts at 9:30 Eastern Time, 7:30 Mountain on ESPN and BYU Radio. The Zags come in 14-3, 3-0 in the league. Last Thursday, though, there's an interesting Zag team. I mean, they're good. Let's not take that, but they're not what they've been. They win at San Francisco Thursday 77-75, and Saturday they win at Santa Clara 81-76. They come from behind in both those games. Those are good road wins. You know, any team that's going to win those 2 games, those are good road wins in this league, but they didn't come easy for the Zags, and now the toughest venue in the WCC is a full Marriott Center, which will be greeting them Thursday.
Yeah, and keep in mind, I think San Francisco is really, really good this year, maybe underrated. But they had.
I don't get them. I don't get them because Pacific or LMU went over there and beat them by 20, or rallied from 20 down, and I think it was Pacific.
It's a team that if they're hot, if Shabazz is hot, you can't. Like, he gets hot, he gets in that zone that Jim was talking about.
Yeah, you
can't stop him. No matter what you do, you try to double him, he splits the double team and shoots a 3. You know, and so,
right.
So they're a little bit hot and cold, but they're scary. Like, they're scary and they're long and athletic. Santa Clara has been really solid, last year and again this year. You know, preseason we were all just thinking, hey, it's the same old thing. It's Gonzaga, it's St. Mary's,
and they're currently tied for first.
Right, and then it's BYU, San Francisco in either order, right, and then Santa Clara. So Gonzaga did get on the road, but to your point, those are teams that even if they're the second or third or fourth best team in the league, Gonzaga goes on the road and crushes people.
Yeah.
And
so
I think
there's an opening.
A little vulnerable compared to years past. Yeah, they only feel like a top 10 team, not a top 2 team.
And that's, you know what? There's a big difference between number 1 and number 10.
Yeah, hey, let's talk about the last 3 meetings in Provo, right? It's 2-1 for the Zags. Last year they were number 2. So they don't feel like a number 2 right now.
They played like number 1 that day.
They feel like a number 8, which they are, right? But
so they won last year 90-57.
90-57.
That was
they just overwhelmed BYU. In 2021, Gonzaga was number 1, and they come in 82-71. They were number 1 in the country, and BYU played them really, really well. So I expect to get more like that.
And then in 20 was the big one. The Zags are number 2, and BYU beats them 91-78. Place goes bananas.
Yeah, and the place was nuts. Do you?
It was just total nuts.
It was one of the best atmospheres I've ever seen in college basketball.
We just sat and watched it all. The fans stormed the floor.
Absolutely nuts.
And you know what? That could happen Thursday night.
Well, hey, if BYU's team shows up that can knock down 19 threes, like they did, what game was that you and I called where they knocked down 19 threes? Whatever game that was where they knocked down 19 threes.
Feels like a long time ago, but it was spectacular.
But that team can beat anybody.
Yeah.
Right, when they're shooting it confidently. I like what Jimmer says. They need to not be shy.
It was against Westminster up at Vivint.
Yeah. Those guys need to not be shy.
Yeah.
They need to shoot the basketball. They're going to develop and grow together, and they're going to be better for it. So they need to just shoot it. They got nothing to lose against Gonzaga, and if they go knock down 19 threes, they're going to be in this ball game.
Saturday night, we're back on the call. Pepperdine at BYU on BYU TV. That's at 9 Eastern, 7 Mountain with Game Day, full pregame show for an hour. That starts at 8 Eastern. Also on BYU TV. We mentioned the Zags and St. Mary's 3-0. BYU and Pacific are next at 3-1. The Cougars beat the Tigers a couple of weeks ago. This is if you can win Thursday, and then you're expected to win Saturday, but with this team, it's an adventure, so who knows?
Right, who knows?
But if you can win Thursday, all of a sudden, you are in play for a special season, considering the team was 5-5 not long ago.
They've been, the one loss, which was kind of unexpected, kind of in this last run.
They just got pushed around by LMU at the end.
Yeah, which was surprising that they couldn't finish. But outside of that, they've been pretty solid, and it seems like they're understanding their role. So who knows what to expect against this Gonzaga team? These Zags are, hey, we make fun of them, but because they only feel like a top 10 team because they usually feel like a top 2 team, right? And that tells you how much respect we actually have for that. We actually have for that basketball program.
And Jimmer expressed that too in his comments
what
about
Mark
it.
Few does. So, hey, in the WCC, as you mentioned, Gonzaga and St. Mary's are tied with 3-0. So a win would put BYU right there, tied for second. So
now what we do know is the Big 12's loaded. Right. And the new poll is out, and we've thrown in we call it the new Big 12 because we're going to include Houston. Right. But here's the top 25 for the league BYU's about to join. Houston's number 1, Kansas is number 2, Texas is number 10, Kansas State's number 11, Iowa State's number 14, TCU's number 17, and Baylor's number 26, just outside the poll. So, that's half the league.
And by the way, like we're all going to admit, especially after last night, yep, the SEC is the best conference in football, which I don't know that there was ever any doubt. But the separation...
The Big Ten likes to think it is, but it's not.
The separation between Georgia and everybody else actually is ridiculous at this point. Like the only one that really... And Ohio State did a pretty good job against them the week before, but they turned the ball over, remember? And I would think that in 10 matchups, Georgia would beat Ohio State 10 times.
65-7, though, is stunning.
Three turnovers for TCU, which I wanted TCU to represent the Big 12 a little bit better. But you can't turn it over against those guys. No. TCU hasn't had a stellar defense all year. They've just been outscoring people. But you turn it over 3 times, the wheels come off. We've all been there.
Some folks were saying today that they gave BYU hope for, you know what? I think we're going to go compete in that conference against that kind of a defense.
Well, we better be able to score. That's all I have to say. But in basketball, it's a whole different story.
Yeah.
The SEC is not the best basketball conference. The Big 12 is. And the number 1 and number 2 teams in the country are in BYU's conference in basketball right now with Houston and Kansas.
It's going to be awesome and scary, like Mark Pope likes to say, awesome and terrifying.
It's all at the same time.
Women's hoops, BYU beat San Diego on Saturday 63-49. I went over and watched that game. It was an afternoon game, and I've got a column coming out tomorrow in the Deseret News on Lauren Gustin. Watched her score 21 points and pull down 24 rebounds, which tied a Marriott Center record, tying the record of Tina Gunn, set back in 1978. That's before both of us came to BYU.
Yeah, well, Mike Z, Just Me, who is one of our streamers, he said, I liked how Lauren Gustin rebounded more than the whole other team.
Yeah, 24-23.
He says, I wonder how long it will take Lauren to break the single-season rebounding record. Well, she's on track.
She is on track. Cougars now 8-8. It's taken them a while, but 8-8, 3-2 in the league. They're on the road this week, Thursday at LMU, Saturday at Pepperdine. Those are both on the WCC network. They're back home Saturday, January 21st against Santa Clara on BYU TV. So they're in a stretch of games. Portland and Gonzaga are the 2 best teams in the league. They played them first. So they're in a stretch of games where, they can go toe-to-toe and scratch out some wins in this first year for the new coach, and all of a sudden you're building on stuff. The recruiting class is sensational coming in.
Yeah, I feel it's unfortunate that BYU had to play Gonzaga and Portland, who are like you said, the kind of the cream of the crop in the league early, because this is so many new faces that I'm not sure everybody knew their roles at that point yet, and I feel like they're starting to round out now. It would have been nice to play them a little later, but hey, it's out of the way.
And both those teams come home to Provo.
They got to come to
and
Provo.
They get a shot at
it. And that's a great point, Dave. Not only did they play the 2 best teams in the league, they played them on the road to start the season.
Yeah.
Which is tough for a young team trying to find itself.
Yeah, thanks WCC
for
that one.
Exactly. So, hey, men's volleyball. Opening weekend sweep to start the season. How about that? Is that good? That's wise guys good karma.
That Sports Nation usually does do the karma, but we gave it a little bit.
Sean was so awesome on the show with us this last week.
And they're up to number 13 in the polls.
Yeah, they defeated McKendree. They swept him on Friday 3-0. And then they defeated Lewis, who's always right up there in the national rankings. They defeat Lewis 3-1. They had 3,259 people there. That's with school not in session.
People love volleyball at the Smith Fieldhouse.
It's so fun, and it's such a great environment. So up next, Farley Dickinson at BYU this Friday through Saturday, January 20th and 21st. That's at 9 Eastern, 7 Mountain, all on BYU TV.
Women's gymnastics, they're number 22 in the country. Finished 4th at the Super 16 Las Vegas meet. They are up next at the Best of Utah meet. That's at the Maverick Center up in West Valley City, I want to say. Or is it Sandy? Or
no, I think it's in West Valley.
Is it West Valley?
Yeah.
Friday night, 9 Eastern, 7 Mountain. That's live on BYU TV.
It's
the University of Utah, all the 4 schools.
And right when you pass the brand new temple on the left side, it's on the right side.
Yeah, wherever that is, that's where I've driven by it a million times. But that's on BYU TV Friday night. Do you think in our lifetimes will the BYU women's gymnastics team beat Utah's gymnastics team?
I heard Utah's really good again this year.
They're always good.
Well, no, they're always good, but they haven't been national championship caliber the last couple of years, but I heard they're national championship caliber this year.
So an upset Friday night, that would be something.
That would be huge. So
something. So that's something to watch.
So which would be bigger, BYU gymnastic beating Utah this weekend or BYU beating Gonzaga Thursday night in basketball? Which is bigger? What about, hey, you folks that are on with us, Dr. Ketch and all you, Mike Z, just me, all of you. Which is a bigger upset? BYU beats Gonzaga in basketball Thursday night, or BYU's women's or BYU gymnastics beats Utah gymnastics this weekend?
Historically, I think it would be gymnastics. Fan base and all that stuff. It's ESPN Thursday night.
Dr. Ketch
22,000 or 20,000 fans.
Yeah, Dr. Ketch says bigger basketball.
Yeah,
it will get more play, but I'm asking which is a bigger
upset. I think it's gymnastics.
And so the Coug dude says gymnastics because it's the team up north.
That would say the same thing for foosball and debate.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay, no. Well, you guys can weigh in on that. I think the gymnastics might be a bigger upset, but the basketball would get more run. So.
Next week, Danny Ainge and Brian Santiago, the deputy athletic director, is going to be with us. We had a lot of questions for him as they have managed through. And the schedules for the Olympic sports in the Big 12, they have those. They just haven't released them. It's the football, basketball, and women's basketball men's basketball and women's basketball that we've yet to see. And we got a lot of questions for Brian. So those two guys are sitting next to each other about every basketball game.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Danny Ainge and Brian Santiago. And then Chris Hoke we're working on for the following week.
Right.
2-time Super Bowl champion, BYU Cougar, and that's Pittsburgh Steeler.
I've got some fun stories about Chris, about the conversations he and I would have in every offseason. I'm just going to kind of give you a preview, and this is, we talk about how hard Jimmer and Tyler and all these guys work. Chris Hoke is a whole other level. Like, it's unbelievable the way he prepared himself and the way he thought to get himself ready to play season after season to be a starter on that Pittsburgh Steelers D-line.
So we're efforting with Chris Hoke and with Jay Hill. So we look forward to
love to get Jay
to that on the 24th. The NFL playoffs start this weekend, and there's some Cougars in the playoffs. Let's run down the list as they chase the ultimate championship.
Yeah, how about the Seahawks at the 49ers? We got Fred Warner, 4:30 Eastern on Fox.
The 49ers should be able to win that game on defense alone, but things get a little weird because they've got a brand new quarterback who has never played in the playoffs.
Do you know who should be playing quarterback for the 49ers?
Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson. Yeah. Why could he not be the third pick instead of the second?
Yeah, why did he have to look so spectacular at Pro Day when the 49ers and the Jets were both here?
Yeah. Hey, LJP says both would be great triumphs. Yes, they would.
Yes, they would.
And then Mike Z says, I would prefer both, but I'm more interested in basketball.
Yeah. Gotcha. Kyle Van Noy, Michael Davis, and the Chargers, they play the Jaguars on Saturday nights on NBC. They got a chance to win that one in advance. I would expect them to win that game.
The Jaguars. That's how they say it in the Winnie the Pooh episode, the Jaguars. Okay, how about Sunday?
If Van Noy gets his third Super Bowl ring, he's going next level.
It'd be pretty awesome. And he represents BYU well.
Yeah, we're going to get him on. And then once we get to the offseason, these guys will be on the show.
We'll bring some of these NFL guys in with us. Sunday, the Giants at the Vikings. Kairos Tonga, how about that? Received the game ball after Sunday's win because of his play on that D-line. What a great story, rags to riches.
And he just kind of snuck into the scene with Minnesota off the waiver wire or whatever.
And he's been so dominating inside.
And head coach gave him the ball, gave him a big hug, and we're like, good for Kairos.
That's at 4:30 Eastern on Fox as well on Sunday.
Now, they should win that game. I'm not putting much faith in the Giants, although the Vikings have been in some weird games.
Yeah.
But hopefully...
hey, how did you end up on your fantasy? I never did hear.
Took fourth place.
Took fourth. Go ahead. Ask me.
How'd you do?
I won the championship.
You won the championship?
Yep.
I ran into some...
why?
You know what?
I never would have won the championship if Christian McCaffrey didn't get traded to the Niners. Because he wasn't producing back in Charlotte.
Here's where I ran into
Carolina.
trouble. Well, a lot of us ran into trouble when the Bills-Bengals game was canceled.
Yeah, that hurt a lot of people. I know.
I had a lot
Didn't impact my
I
championship.
had a kicker that needed to get some things done in that game.
Yeah. No, I won the championship. But
well, congratulations.
I have to give a public thanks to my 2 grandsons.
Why'd they put your roster in?
No, they would call me every week and they go, "Hey, Papa, do you know that your quarterback has a bye this week? You need to change your roster." And I'd be like, "Oh, Bo, thanks." So Bo,
your team of advisors.
Bo Fry, my daughter's son, and then Bradley Fowler, my son's son. So that's why one's a Fowler and one's a Fry. Hey, it's Blair and Nicole's son.
Gotcha.
And it's Landon and Courtney's son.
Gotcha.
They have advised me, and I feel like I have to share my winnings with them.
I think you should.
Because really it was like
share it in the pops. Pay them off in popsicles.
I feel like it was a general manager and director of player personnel for my team, even though they were in the league. And they would call me every week. Hey, Papa, your quarterback is hurt. I'm like, oh, crap, that wouldn't be good with it. No. You need... Hey, let me help you walk you through how you pick up a new quarterback. So
that's nice.
I owe him everything.
I already announced to my family that Vegas has picked me to win next year.
Nice.
So we'll see.
Are you a 200 to 1 or are you?
I don't know. This week in history, January 10th through the 16th, a lot of things went down this week. And we're going to wrap up the show here. Maybe we just might do it a couple minutes earlier than normal.
Nothing wrong with that. So
this week in history, we go back to 1861. Florida and Alabama of the SEC secede from the Union leading up to the Civil War.
Not the universities, but the states.
Right.
So from the Union, actually. 1863, the first underground railway opens in London.
Now, let's think about that for a sec. So they've decided they're going to dig a tunnel and put a train in there. And they're saying, Blaine, it's safe. Why don't you go ahead?
So, yeah, I don't know if I'm
Why don't you go ahead and take that ride?
So I've taken the subway in London before. What is it called there? The Tube.
The Tube.
They call it the Tube.
But it's been tested.
And they always say, when you're going to step off and the door opens, it always says, mind the gap. And I was like, what are they talking about? And Brenda says, that's how they say it in England. Like, watch your step in the gap between the subway and the... So always... You get that advice every time you step out of the subway. Mind the gap in London. So
1911, this week, the first photo in the U.S. is taken from an airplane. I imagine it was just a bunch of white fluffy clouds. But that was someone got a camera and they took a picture while up on a plane for the first time.
In 1945, RCA introduces the 45 record.
Remember that? That song, and then you flip the side.
Yep, just a smile. It wasn't a big LP.
You flip the other side, and you find that Paul McCartney's dead or whatever.
Was the big one 33?
Yeah,
33. So this is 45.
45s.
Yep.
1958 this week. Great Balls of Fire went #1 in the United Kingdom with Jerry Lee Lewis.
Pretty awesome.
We all know the words to that. That's the power of that song.
That's right. 1964. The government acknowledges for the first time in an official report that cigarettes may be hazardous to your health.
You know, I don't know what enlightened everybody in 1964. Maybe it was the Beatles coming. I don't know, but it took them that long to go, hey, you know what? That breathing smoke into your lungs and then holding it there and then breathing it out might not be good for you.
And let me tell you something. I don't want to, we've been talking a lot about Europe tonight, right? And we've been to Europe quite a bit. And they didn't get the message over there, just in case you were wondering. They didn't get the message in Europe. Everybody still smokes over there. What's going on?
When I was at the Olympics in Russia, it blew my mind.
It's like they didn't get the message.
And they just smoke everywhere. You know, it's like there's no EPA over there.
I feel like we went back 20 years when you go over there, right?
Yeah, so it's just how it goes.
1982, the catch. Remember Dwight Clark's touchdown with 58 seconds remaining to lift the 49ers over the Dallas Cowboys in the NFL championship
As a Cowboy fan, I was bummed out.
Oh, really?
How'd Dwight Clark go up and get that ball?
It's like...
And they almost had Montana sacked.
I know.
And then he chucked it up there.
He double clutched and got it in there, the catch.
1984, how about this one? It's the first time America heard the TV ad and the older lady say, "Where's the beef?" with Wendy's.
What was her name? What was her name? Was
I can't
it Clara?
remember. Might have been. Well, where's the beef?
Where's the beef? And they're making fun of McDonald's and all the others saying the burgers were too small.
Right. They're like,
and Wendy's was going to give you this big square burger, right?
That's so where's the beef? This week, 1984.
Okay, 1984. Also in 1984, Harmon Killebrew was elected to baseball's Hall of Fame.
I remember reading a book about him growing up. What a life.
My dad used to talk to me about Harmon Killebrew.
1999 this week, The Sopranos. debuted on HBO. Kind of reshaped mafia TV movies.
And then there's been a lot ever since, all kinds of series. So, how about birthdays this week?
Alexander Hamilton, 1725.
This week, Alexander Hamilton. Have you still haven't seen the musical Hamilton? No. I just broke you into musicals when I took you to Moulin Rouge. Now you got to see Hamilton.
Yeah, I'll see it.
If it comes, Brendan and I are taking you and Diane. Right. Okay. So, 1737, John Hancock.
I imagine it's not going to be as entertaining as Moulin Rouge.
Moulin Rouge was awesome. Hamilton's pretty good too.
It was good. The John Hancock signature guy.
Yeah, so we got John Hancock, Alexander Hamilton. We were all kinds of colonial,
How about 1741 this week? Benedict Arnold.
Yeah, turncoat. So
the name Benedict would never be, except the.
What are you, some kind of Benedict Arnold? If you're a traitor, you're just a Benedict Arnold.
All of a sudden, your name's used for all that. The what's his name from the Marvel movies? Benedict, is it Cumberbatch?
Yeah, Benedict Cumberbatch. That's right.
He's the what is he? Doctor Strange.
Yeah, which I don't get that character, but anyhow. 1929, Martin Luther King Jr.
1945, Rod Stewart.
1949, George Foreman.
I was at the MGM watching Foreman lose to Michael Moore for most of the fight until it was like the 10th or 11th round, and then Foreman hit Moore with like what looked like a slow motion combination, knocked him out, and Foreman became the oldest heavyweight champion in boxing history. And that's right when he was selling his grills. Remember the Foreman grill?
I remember for the George Foreman.
He had all kinds of things going on.
Yeah. Like he never asked, where's the beef?
No, he was the beef.
Yeah. So Pat Benatar, 1953.
I saw her in concert at the Thomas & Mack in Vegas with REO Speedwagon. Instead of playing stadiums, they're now playing, 8,000 people. She was fantastic. She can still hit all the notes. And because I kind of went to see REO Speedwagon and then Pat Benatar, but when Pat Benatar came out, she just stole the show.
Yeah, she's great.
Some of those artists that can hit the notes when they're 20, 30, 40 and beyond, you're like, hey, more power to you.
Yep, absolutely special to keep especially back in those days, those rockers were maybe not the great lifestyle to keep your vocal cords in great shape, right? So
no, not at all.
You know who can still sing great? The REO Speedwagon guy.
Yeah.
Like he can still bring it. Yeah, he can still bring it.
He and the Styx guys, they're coming back on tour.
Yeah.
Foreigner guys, the classic guys, even AC/DC's guy who screams, he can still scream.
Yeah. Well, that's not that hard.
Yeah, but it's hard to do for 2 hours.
It is. So
you have Angus Young to help you out.
DJ's laughing over there because he knows I always make fun of AC/DC.
DJ, he just wants to play some techno pop.
I actually respect him, but it's Dave's band.
All right, so our tradition throughout this coming season year is we're going to close with the Wise Guy Inspirational Thought of the Week. We did Lavelle Edwards quotes last year in our debut year, and now we've moved to Inspirational Thoughts of the Week. Because you know what that does? That gives us a better pool to draw from. Because we used just about every quote Lavelle ever said we've used over the last year. And so there's so many good ones, and we'll always try to have one that kind of leaves you feeling pretty good. So here's this week's Inspirational Thought of the Week.
Yeah, and I love that it's by Dr. Seuss, because you know I love Dr.
Seuss.
I
do know you love Dr. Seuss.
Dave knows that I quote Dr. Seuss. When we're trying to warm up, when we're going to call a live game, I'm always like 3,000 feet up to the top of Mount Crumpet. He rose with his load to the tip top to dump it, poo-poo to the who's he was grinchiously humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming.
Yeah.
And that's how we warm up.
He's just getting started.
That's how we warm up.
That's how you warm up, and then I laugh. That's how we warm up.
Dave laughs, and then he warms up his vocal cords by laughing. So,
all right, here's the inspirational thought of the week. The
inspirational thought from Dr. Seuss. When one door of happiness closes, another opens. But often we look so long at the closed door that we do not see the one that has been opened for us.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
We're so focused on how we got ripped off
that we don't look
disappointed
to the new opportunity in front of us. That's a great bit of advice right there.
So let's think about that.
Look for the open door.
I thought Jimmer had some good advice, too. We sure appreciate him coming on the show tonight. Next week, Danny Ainge and Brian Santiago, Deputy Athletic Director.
Yeah.
And we'll have a fun show next week. Podcast will be up tomorrow, and you can listen to Jimmer as often as you want. Twitch and YouTube, ysguys.com. And then our email will be out later in the week with highlights from the show.
Hey, and Essay's telling us, don't forget Elvis was born January 8th, 1935.
That's good to know. That would have been great to know for last week's show.
That would have been good for last week.
But thank you.
But, hey, you can never forget Elvis. Thank you very much.
There's only a few artists that can just go with the one name.
Yeah.
Elvis.
Michael.
Cher.
Yeah.
Cher.
But Michael, is it Michael Jackson or Michael Jordan?
I think it's Michael Jackson. Yeah, I think you need Jackson on there. Jimmer. You say Jimmer, everyone knows the last name?
Yep.
What are some of the one-namers? There's not that many.
No. Wait, what's the great singer? Madonna. Yep,
Madonna.
Thanks for that. That Linda Murray
Thanks,
hit us up with Madonna.
Yeah, not many where they just throw out the one name, and we're missing a couple, but that's okay.
Pink. She's not that big of a star.
Like a color. Picked a color.
No, she's very talented. She's at least as talented as AC/DC's lead singer.
Now that's just crazy talk.
Okay.
At least AC/DC goes, hey guys, here's what we are. We got guitars and drums and
thank goodness
and rock and roll. Beyonce.
And my wife, that's my wife just pitches in and says, what about Beyonce?
Beyonce, that's right.
Yeah.
Beyonce's another one. I know who that is. Beyonce.
Is Jay-Z one name? That's his wife, by the way.
I don't know if Jay-Z is that or not. I guess it is. DJ says it is.
Yeah, Jay-Z's one name.
All right.
I feel for that.
Well, we're just Dave and Blaine. We're just
Dave
couple of names on the Wise Guys.
Linda says Donnie. I don't know. Do you think Donnie Osmond and only Donnie?
When
Osmond?
Donnie comes on this show, we'll reference him
as one name for sure.
Yeah, because Marie came on the show, and we just call her Marie. But thanks everybody on our live stream around the world, and
we appreciate you pitching in today. We got a lot of good help from you guys today with Jimmer and some great ideas and thoughts. Love having you on with us.
We'll see you Saturday night at 9 Eastern, 7 Mountain, BYU and Pepperdine.
Don't forget Thursday night. I'm going to join Jerem and Tyler
for
on the
game day,
pre and post game day shows for the Gonzaga game.
So that's got to be at it's
an hour before
6:30 Mountain Time.
Right, 6:30
on BYU TV,
and then we'll hit a post game show.
And then the game's on ESPN.
Yeah, so I'm going to join Jerem and Tyler for that, and then Dave and I will have the call on Saturday night.
And every day when you get up and you check your Twitter feed, there's always something about BYU football. So we know there'll be some things between now and next week, and we start our show, we'll roll it out. Hey, that's what we do.
Mike says just me. I don't know if he was keyboarding to somebody else, but he finished with a love you. We'll take that, brother. We love you too. We love all of you. Thanks for being with us.
Yes, we do. See you guys.
And we'll see you next week.